Hi guys, what you are looking at right now is the cheapest autofocus lens on the planet, the TTArtisan 27mm F2.8. It is $160 and it's actually a really good lens, which makes this probably the bargain of the year. The decade? Certainly the year. Let's talk about it. So big thanks to TTArtisans for sending this guy out for review. This is their first autofocus lens, and it is the world's smallest and cheapest autofocus lens. At 27mm, it can be perfect for certain types of situations. Like I am inside right now because it's raining currently out there, and I am a delicate flower. Plus, this gives me an opportunity to show you what the lens looks like here in the studio. Now, 27mm on an APS-C camera is about 41mm full frame field of view, and a lot of people like that for a studio. The camera is about 6 feet away from me right now, and I am shooting at f2.8, and this is the image that you can get. Now, while I do love this for the studio, and 2.8 you can definitely do it, it is decent in low light. What I really think this lens is perfect for is your out and about street photography, street videography. You can be stealthy. The thing, it basically looks like a point and shoot. It's not much bigger than a phone. Look at how small this little pancake lens is attached to my ZV-E10. I mean, people didn't notice me at all. I was walking around taking the old snappy snaps just like a creep, getting award-winning Pulitzer Prize shots. People, they don't even know the difference. And how did it perform out in the street? It performed great. Its autofocus works really well. It is not quite as snappy as something like a G Master lens, which you would not expect out of a $160 lens, but the autofocus, it works quite well. It only hesitated a tiny bit here and there when I was down at f2.8. If you were over f2.8, it grabbed the photo instantly, and even at 2.8, it was quite good at autofocusing. Right now, I'm using the eye autofocus here in video, and it's holding fantastically. And the image quality looks great and looks pleasing, and the bokeh, the background out of focus areas look really, really great. And to me, those are the most important factors when it comes to street photography and street videography. And this lens is great at controlling chromatic aberration. That is the purple fringing you will see sometimes on high contrast scenes like tree branches, things like that that are backlit. But this lens is actually really, really great at it. It's better than most of my lenses that are far, far more expensive. So good job, TTArtisans, on that one. So now let's talk about the build quality. This is also a very pleasant surprise. It is almost all metal, the lens. It has an aperture ring. You guys know I love an aperture ring, a clicky aperture ring. It is quite small, so you got to use your two little fingers there, but I don't mind that at all. I love an aperture ring, and the focus ring also moves quite smoothly. And did I mention it is less than 100 grams? I am very pleased with the size, weight, and build quality of this lens. I certainly did not expect it. This lens comes with this tiny little lens hood, which is also metal, and you can attach the front cap to the lens hood itself, which is great for that pocketability. And it also has a USB port for updating. It's actually in the back lens cap itself, so that way they could keep the size down. So small, very clever little invention that they did there. So you just put the lens cap on the back, and then you can update it through USB-C, but now they don't have it available for Mac, which is too bad because I have only Macs here, so you can update it on PC, but not Mac now. So I have not updated the lens at all, yet it has performed flawlessly for me. Still, TTArtisans, please put it in so that I can update from my Mac, please. So of course there are compromises with this lens, which you would have to expect given the price and the size, but to me, for the target market, I think those compromises, you can live with them. For instance, focus breathing. You will see right here, watch the screen move in and out a little bit on the edges. There is a little bit of focus breathing, but once again, when you're taking street photography, you don't really need to stack images in Photoshop and blend them together. You're not doing super long focus pulls, so I don't see how focus breathing will be a big issue for you. Now, this next one is definitely a flaw of the lens, and when it comes to the lens coating, it's with the flare, the glaring, and the ghosting. You are going to see a nice bit of glaring and ghosting when you have bright lights in the shot. Now, the fact is, this lens gives a real vintage style look to it, so you can use these unique elements to your advantage if you want to get a different, more vintage style picture. But if you're used to someone who has more clinical lenses where the flare and ghosting and contrast is well controlled when you're shooting into bright lights, this lens isn't for you. But for me and street photography, I'm not pointing it straight at the sun, generally speaking, anyway. And when I did get those flares and ghosting, to me it added a little pizzazz. But for street photography in general and street videography, I don't think the flaring and contrast loss is going to be a big deal to a lot of people. Now, this is only a 2.8. Once you go f4 or higher, then a lot of that ghosting and flaring goes away. And seeing how with a lot of street photography, you're not going to be down at 2.8 anyway, then once again, less of a big deal. Now, the focus motors do make some noise, so if it is trying to focus on different things or you're in low light situations, if you have a microphone directly on top of your camera, you are definitely going to pick up those focus motors. I personally never have a microphone directly on top of my camera. I usually use a lavalier mic or a boom mic, something like that. But if you're an on-camera mic type of person, then don't get this lens because you're going to hear those focus motors. Now, you will see heavy vignetting at f2.8. Now, this does depend on your personal preference and style, whether you like vignetting or not. Personally, with all my street photography photos, I put on a pretty heavy vignette. I just like the way it looks to me when I'm doing street photography. So for me, it's okay because that is what I would have done anyway. But at f2.8, you're going to see it. Once again, if you go to f4 or higher, then that vignetting will go away. So that's up to you. You can also correct vignetting in post fairly easily. So, now the reason I say most people will be able to live with those drawbacks is because what the lens does offer is extremely attractive. It is $159. It is so small and light, so great for street photography, for taking out a camera that is unassuming. It's so great for travel. You can just put it right in your pocket. It has an autofocus system that actually works quite well, and to be able to open up the lens to f2.8 at 27mm, that is very good value. If you use, for instance, the Sony kit lens 16 to 50 and you go to 27mm, you are not going to get an f2.8. Anyway, let's go back to old Handsome Alley and see if it stopped raining. So big thanks to TTArtisans for sending this thing out for review and also making a lens that is autofocus, 2.8, 27mm, and affordable. This is affordable to all of the people who want to buy cameras. So thanks very much, TTArtisans. Keep on doing what you're doing. I'm very excited about where this company is headed. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye. It's raining now, and my ZV-E10 is not weather sealed. I gotta go.